You're talking about your hectic schedule. Tell me a little bit about that.
But I have a choice about this, Mark. It's not something that...
You even just finished my question for me.
Yeah, no.
Tell me about
you're implying
work-life
that it's
balance.
hectic because... So when somebody does a lot, that's their choice. It's not usually... Well, in my case, it's not imposed.
So tell me a little bit about it. How do you do it? How does it work? Do people have to do this to get to the top?
No, I think you do it. But you do it because you have an emotional connection. So this is a bit different. This is not a job for me, right? You and I have discussed this before. So it's the old boring Bill Shankly quote. You know, football's not a matter of life and death. It's more important than that. So WPP is not a matter of life and death. It's more important than that. So it's very, very personal. So if you start something when you're 40 years old, like I did from scratch, with one person in a basement room in Lincoln's Inn Fields, and then we progressed. We went from a ground floor room to a basement, actually a leaky basement, under the car park in Lincoln's Inn Fields. You have an emotional attachment to it, and in those days, I think some people would have said, there's no way that they can do anything of significance in the business, in the industry that we're in, and the last 28 years has proved to some extent that was an inaccurate judgment. So, I think but it's by choice. It's not by me doing anything else other than I enjoy doing it. Which one of your questions that you said in our rehearsed questions, not rehearsed questions, was what was it? It was the
I'd
first
just like
one.
to say there were about six or seven we ran by you, and the rest are freewheeling.
No, actually everything becomes free.
It sounds like
but what leads to happiness in work? So is that you should enjoy what you do, and that's very easy.
I quite like that one.
That
NABS provided that one.
That what you should do should be something that is not even second nature to you, but first nature to you. So you shouldn't force yourself to do things that you... easy for me to say, but I think that's fundamental. And nothing I've done since I left business school, really, is something that I didn't primarily enjoy doing. I mean, I never really sort of... When I was working for Glendenning or Mark McCormack or James Gulliver, or even tried to do something with my father, or the Saatchi brothers. I mean, it was always enjoyable. It was never, I never sort of groaned when I got up in the morning and said, oh God, I've got to go into and do something. I mean, that didn't mean that there weren't stressful times, but I don't think there is anything such as stress. It's just you're not having fun.
You project an image of a steely confidence. You like to tell me you're always right, but do you ever have any doubts?
I never said that. No, that's very unfair.
Do you ever have any doubts?
That's an Antipodean sort of view of history.
At least you didn't say Australia this time.
No, it's rather sort of thing you get in Paris or France. Sort of reversionary history. We'll come on to that later. Do I have any? Yes, of course. Everybody has doubts. I mean, it would be, I'm sure, even the most super confident. I don't think I have that steely confidence that you referred to. But I think everybody has. I mean, I don't know who you would regard as being the most super confident person in the world, but whoever it is, everybody has doubts about whether something's going to turn out right, or whether they made the right decision, or whether they made the right choices. And probably the honest answer is that every day you make mistakes, but the thing about batting and cricket, actually, reverting to that for a minute, is if you make a mistake, usually you're out, particularly if you're playing in first-class cricket. I mean, the opportunities to correct an error are usually when you're batting. When you're bowling, it's fine, but when you're batting, it's very, very difficult. And the difference in real life is that if you do make a mistake, you get chances to try and correct it, and you can get maybe more than one chance. But do I have self-doubts at various points in my life? Sure I do. Yeah, absolutely. I had self-doubts about agreeing to be interviewed by you for NABS.
Now, you're a people business.
Mm-hmm.
So you talk a lot about the pace of change.
Most businesses, just for a minute, most businesses are differentiated, believe it or not, by the people. Unusually, I mean, in an era of 3D printing and robotics and Google and algorithms and maths men or maths women as well as mad men and mad women, that may sound an odd thing to say, but the critical differentiator between most companies, actually irrespective of whether they're labor intensive like our business or our industry or any other, is, funnily enough, the people. If you have better people in one company or one cricket team or one soccer team or one rugby team, as I'm talking to in New Zealand, they usually win. So I think it's all about people at the end of the day.
The question of succession always comes up, doesn't it?
Well, when you're interviewing me, yes.
You just raised it now.
Well, it's natural. I'm 69. I think I'm in good health. I enjoy what I do. I find if I've managed to communicate one thing during the course of this interview, I find it what we're doing more interesting today than when I started in the business. I was working for James Gulliver and first met the Saatchi brothers and Ken Gill at Garland Compton, when Ken Gill wanted to revitalise Garland Compton, when he'd injected it into a shell company called the Birmingham Crematorium, would you believe? And he needed a boost, met Charles and Morris. It was the hottest agency in town. They reversed themselves in. So it's very different from those days, but it's more absorbing, it's more interesting. And obviously, we have a company which is got 178,000 people in 111 countries. I was up in Scotland before I came down here today and doing a roadshow, investors roadshow, and it could have been 112 if Scotland had gone independent. The 111th country was Mongolia. And I think it's fascinating. But it's fascinating geographically, it's fascinating technologically, it's fascinating from a data point of view, it's fascinating from an integration point of view, because those are the four things that we're trying to do. And the very heart of our business, if you say it's about people and creativity, it's more interesting today and it's more diverse than it's ever been. And JWT is 150 years old this year. So J. Walter Thompson Company, as I prefer to call it, and I think it will be called, has managed to survive for 150 years despite my attempts to destroy it.
Couple of NABSy questions.
Yeah.
Flexible working laws.
Yes.
How do they affect the business, and what do you think about them?
Well, I think they're fine, and I would be I would support them wholeheartedly. But I think it imposes on everybody tremendous responsibility. So if you have total flexibility, it means you also have to have full responsibility. So you've got to take it seriously. I mean, the related questions, about parenting, should men and women be equally responsible? Sure they should be, and they should participate, and getting balance into your life. I mean, if I have one regret, going back to business school, and I always remember we thought it was a totally useless course, but it was called Planning in the Business Environment. It was about business strategy, and the professor was George Cabot Lodge, who was Henry Cabot Lodge's son. And Henry Cabot Lodge was the Secretary of State in the Eisenhower administration, I think it was. And George Cabot Lodge, we thought he was a terrible professor, but he actually was very wise. And what he described was life is it's a balancing three circles. There's the intersection, it's the Venn diagram of the three circles: family, career, and society. And there are very few people who can balance all three. And I've not been able to do that at various points in my life. Sometimes I've been able to, but I haven't been able to do it consistently. And as a result, you prejudice one of those. And in my case, it happened to be family at one stage, and some would say it would be socially as well. But certainly career and building a career and building a business was a preeminent concern. So getting that right is really important. So flexible working hours is a microcosm of that. And parenting is a microcosm of that. And, Branson's decision to let people at Virgin take holidays, which is another one of those NABSy questions on your pad. Do I think that's right? No, I don't think it's right. I mean, my view is, how do you spell holiday? And my view also is, clients, if there's one thing that irritates clients, it's their business doesn't run to the rhythm of an August holiday. And by the way, August is a holiday in the northern hemisphere, but it isn't, believe it or not, in the southern hemisphere. In the southern hemisphere, you're in spring going into summer. You're not coming out of summer or in the end, the dog days of summer. So it doesn't fit neatly into it. So we run a global business. It is 24/7. Things can happen. I can remember a couple of weekends ago, we had a situation that went right through the weekend, and it doesn't neatly fit into it. And I think the thing that frustrates clients about us, about our industry, is that that's one of the things.